The fog curls around your ankles like a soft whisper, neither cold nor warm, just present. It doesn't startle you. It doesn't ask for your attention. It's simply there, like the edge of a dream you're not quite sure you had. You are standing on the shores of Reverie Island. The sand beneath your feet is damp, kissed by the tide. The waves hush in and out, like the breath of someone sleeping nearby. You inhale deeply, and it feels like the air itself is exhaling too. Slow, rhythmic, calm. Somewhere between the stars and your eyelids, this island has welcomed you. Not loudly, not suddenly, but gently, like a memory returning on its own. The fog thickens, shapes blur. Thoughts drift away like paper boats on still water. And just as you begin to feel yourself disappearing into the silence, a small flicker of light appears through the mist dot. It's a lantern, held by a figure no taller than your knee. He wears a coat stitched from pine needles and a hat made of moss. His eyes sparkle like moonlight on dew. He says nothing, only gestures, and you follow, not with your feet, but with your breath, your thoughts, your presence. With each step, the fog parts around you, not clearing, but reshaping, like the mind when it begins to sleep, not forgetting, but softening. This is how it starts, the gnome says, finally. His voice is gravel and honey, slow and unhurried. When the world fades and the fog rises, your mind begins its secret work. You glance back. The shore is gone. Ahead, only mist and murmurs. People think sleep is silence, he continues. But it's a symphony you're too quiet to hear. Your mind isn't stopping. It's sorting. You nod, unsure why, but it feels true. You've gathered so much today, he says, walking beside you now, a lantern swaying gently. Faces, words, they're still here, floating in the fog. But your brain, clever as ever, is sifting them like gold from sand. He pauses near a stone archway, moss-covered and glowing faintly blue. This fog? He asks, pointing. It's your hippocampus, the keeper of moments, not forever, just for now. You blink slowly. Hippocampus, a word from school, from science class, a part of the brain shaped like a seahorse. Memories harbor. It holds the memories fresh from the day, he explains. All the things you did, the thoughts you barely noticed. They're stored here, not polished yet, not permanent. He leads you through the arch. On the other side, the fog thins just enough to see shadows, flickers of your own day. You recognize a street you walked, a voice you heard, a passing. Thought you forgot. They're not gone, the gnome whispers. They're waiting. A memory floats past, shimmering like glass, the taste of coffee, the sound of rain. You don't reach for it. You just watch. Sleep isn't about erasing, the gnome continues. It's about organizing, like placing books on the right shelf. Some stay, some go, but nothing is wasted. He lifts his lantern toward a tree, and the bark opens like a door. Inside, soft light pulses with a heartbeat's rhythm. This is where decisions are made, he says. The hippocampus decides which memories travel deeper, into the cortex, into long-term. The cortex, another word from another life. The part of your mind that stores the long roads, the birthdays, the names of rivers. But not everything stays, the gnome says gently. Your brain is wise. It doesn't keep every raindrop, only the ones that matter to your story. You find this comforting, that your mind, even now, is tending to you. That while you rest, it's working quietly to clear the clutter. 2. Preserve the meaningful. To let go of what weighs you. You pause beneath a tree where fog drips from branches like misty vines. The gnome sits beside you, humming something soft, a lullaby with no words. You realize something. This fog isn't confusion. It's protection. A gentle boundary between the waking world and the dreaming one. Your thoughts begin to slow, like oars lifting from water. Even your heartbeat feels softer now. There's more to see, the gnome says, standing. More of your mind to meet. You rise, not with effort, but with ease, as if the island itself is lifting you. The path ahead glows faintly with fireflies. They blink in slow rhythm. 1, 2, rest. 1, 2, rest. Each light a spark of memory, some fading, some just beginning. You follow the gnome as he steps toward the heart of the forest. The fog begins to thin, but not disappear. Where are we going? You ask, your voice a soft breath. He turns and smiles, eyes twinkling, to the place where thoughts go to settle, and somewhere in the distance, the trees begin to hum. A new rhythm stirs in the soil, waiting for you to hear it. You step beyond the arch of mist and into a forest softly lit from within. The trees hum, not with wind, but with something quieter, something older, like the echo of a lullaby that's been playing since the first dream was born. Tiny lights drift between the branches. Some flicker, some float in gentle spirals. They remind you of fireflies in jars, but these jars are made of memory, fragile, glowing, alive. Each one is a thought, the gnome whispers, not wanting to startle the quiet. They've come here to settle. You walk beside him on a path of moss and starlight. Above, the branches arch like brain matter, folds of green and silver, shimmering with unseen pulses. The lights swirl between them like messages passed in silence. These trees are neurons, he says, tapping the bark. Each branch a dendrite, each light a signal. When they speak, they call it a synapse. You pause beneath one such tree. It trembles ever so slightly. Two branches lean toward each other, their leaves tingling with light, and for a moment, a firefly leaps from one to the other. That, the gnome smiles, was a memory whispering its way through. The air itself feels electric here, not the kind that shocks, the kind that listens. You breathe slowly, and in that breath, you feel your own brain humming, not with noise, but with activity too small to hear. Even now, the gnome continues, your mind is speaking to itself. You look again at the lights between branches. Some pulse quickly, others drift, slow and rhythmic. You ask him what the difference means. The fast ones, he says, are dreams, REM sleep. Rapid eye movement. It's when your mind lights. Up like fireworks, images, stories, shadows. The stage of dreaming. And the slow ones? You ask Dot, he leads you to a deeper part of the forest. Here, everything moves more slowly. Even your heartbeat seems to match the pace. These are the slow waves, he says. This is where your body sleeps, where healing begins, where rest is not escape, but repair. He places a hand on your arm. Your brain cycles through. Both, he continues. First deep, then dream, then deep again. You walk further. Each step feels like a note in a soft melody. And you realize sleep is not one song, but many. A rhythm of stages, repeating in quiet loops. You notice how some trees seem older than others. Their bark is thicker, their roots deeper. These, the gnome says, are the thoughts you visit often. Habits, emotions, ideas tied to who you believe you are. And others, tiny saplings, flickering in the wind, are new. Moments from today, things you barely noticed. Still deciding if they'll take root. You don't choose what stays, he says. But you feed them with attention, with repetition, with feeling. A single firefly drifts toward you, pausing just before your chest. You hold still. Inside it, you see a flicker of a moment. Your hand on a doorknob, the smell of toast, a passing smile. And then it's gone. Most thoughts, the gnome says, are like that, fleeting, unanchored. But when you sleep, that's when they get their chance to settle. You sit beneath a tree, feeling its pulse match your breath. Your eyes begin to soften. Even here, even inside this dream of thought, you feel the pull of deeper rest. Your brain is pruning, he whispers, trimming what isn't needed, strengthening what is, cleaning the pathways so tomorrow feels lighter. You picture tiny gnomes sweeping dust from circuits, gently sealing cracks in memories, untangling feelings caught in the wires. It makes you smile. Do the thoughts ever stop? You ask. He laughs, not loudly, but with warmth. No. He says, they just quiet, like waves between tides. Sleep doesn't turn the ocean off. It just smooths the surface. You sit together in silence, listening to that quiet hum. It's not lonely. It's not empty. It's alive, but still, somewhere. Behind your eyes, your own neurons are speaking, replaying, revising, remembering. And all the while, your body lies somewhere else, safe, still, adrift in a rhythm that asks for nothing but time. The gnome rises, brushing moss from his coat. There's another place, he says softly, beneath the roots, where the oldest thoughts sleep. You look at him, wondering what he means. He gestures toward a hill, where roots coil like ancient veins, and something below glows faintly, warm, waiting. Not all memories float. Some, it seems, are buried like treasure. And tonight, you're invited to find them. The path narrows, sloping downward. You follow the gnome without words now. There is no need. The silence here speaks for itself, dense and gentle, like thick velvet drawn across the sky. The air grows cooler, not cold, but calm. Even your thoughts seem to step lightly now, mindful of the hush. Above you, roots dangle like ancient threads, each one pulsing with a soft inner light. You've come to the heart of the elder tree. Its bark rises like a cathedral, tall, spiraling, and moss-covered, like a memory grown old, but never forgotten. At the base, a rounded door sits nestled in the roots. It opens before the gnome touches it, as though it recognizes you. And maybe, in some strange way, it does. You step inside. The air shifts, warm, earthy, lit not by fire, but by bioluminescence. Slow, golden pulses that fade and return like breath dot. It's a library. Not made of paper, but of memory. Rows upon rows of wooden drawers, ancient scrolls, hanging jars filled with drifting light. You feel it immediately. Your presence here matters. The gnome nods solemnly, walking ahead. This is the hippocampus, he whispers, where your memories are sorted and rewritten. You look around. Some scrolls pulse gently. Others rest dormant, quiet and still. Some are tightly wound. Others hang open, as if recently read. This place, he says, does not record your life. It composes it. You walk between the shelves, your footsteps muffled on moss-covered floors. A scroll unrolls as you pass. A moment from your day. A glance. A laugh. A hesitation you forgot you felt. Each night, the gnome explains. This library reweaves your day. It isn't enough to remember. The brain must decide what meaning each memory holds. He points to a group of gnome scribes seated at low tables. They are small, focused, and impossibly gentle. Each writes not with ink, but with threads of light, weaving glowing patterns onto vellum made of mist. These scribes have asleep. Cycles, the gnome continues. In REM, they connect. In deep sleep, they stabilize. Each memory is tested, reshaped, and placed where it belongs, or let go. You pause beside one scroll glowing in shades of gold and green. It's the memory of something small, a look exchanged perhaps. Insignificant during the day, yet here it pulses with meaning. Emotions mark what matters, the gnome says. When you feel something deeply, your brain flags it for remembrance. You realize now the brain is not a hard drive. It's a storyteller. And every night, while you sleep, it edits your narrative. Not for accuracy, but for understanding. He walks with you into a circular room, the core of the tree. Here, the drawers are older, worn, cracked, but clearly cherished. These are your long-term memories, the gnome says, touching one with reverence. They began as scrolls like the ones you saw, and made their way here. You watch as a scribe approaches one such drawer and opens it. Inside is a glowing orb, the memory no longer written in language, but in feeling. It radiates warmth, scent, sound, not words. Consolidation, the gnome whispers. A memory that has become part of you. You sit for a moment on a stone bench, looking around. You wonder how many dreams you've had here without knowing. How many times your mind returned to this library without your permission, rewriting your story with tender hands. Sleep, the gnome says, is your co-author. It sees what you can't. It understands what you haven't yet realized. It lets go for you when you don't know how. You close your eyes and feel it. Not just the weight of your day, but the shape of it. Its highs and lows. Its meanings half formed. And beneath it all, this place, always working, always quiet. You feel a gentle vibration underfoot, a pulse through the roots. It's the rhythm. The gnome says, each night, your brain cycles through NREM and REM, slowly at first, then faster. Each round is another chance to refine the story. You look to the ceiling. The inside of the elder tree spirals upward like a shell. Glowing pulses drift up the walls, then vanish into the wood. What happens to the memories that don't? Make it? You ask Dot. He points to a field of petals scattered on the floor. They dissolve, not into nothing, but into compost. The forgotten feed the new. There's peace in that thought, that not everything must be held. That release can be sacred too. The gnome offers you a scroll, fresh, unmarked, pulsing softly. This one's for tonight, he says. A space to fill, not with what you think, but what you feel. You hold it gently, and as you do, something shifts inside you. A trust, a letting go, a knowing that even in sleep, you are cared for. Room dims, not into darkness, but into deeper calm. You turn to the gnome, who's already walking toward the roots once more. Where now? You ask Dot. He looks back, smiling. To the river, he says, where rhythms carry you, even when you don't know you're floating. Because memory is not just what we keep, but how we let it drift to become something new. The gnome leads you down a gentle slope where the soil is damp and fragrant and the trees begin to thin. Ahead, the air glows silver blue, as if moonlight is dancing without a moon. And then you hear it, not a sound, but a feeling, a rhythm. Like a heartbeat stretched across water. Dot, you step through a curtain of ivy, and there it is. A river, wide, slow-moving, luminous. Its surface glimmers with shifting patterns, like notes in a song you forgot you knew. The water is not cold, not warm. It simply is. A mirror for the sky, for your breath, for your thoughts. The gnome steps onto a small wooden boat carved from a single spiraled shell. He gestures for you to join him. You sit, and the boat moves without a paddle, as if the river itself decides where to go. This, he says quietly, is the river of rhythms. It flows not through the island, but through you. You look down. The water beneath the boat shifts, smooth waves, small ripples, occasional pulses. It's not chaotic. It's not still. It's something in between. Your breath sinks to it naturally. Inhale with the rise. Exhale with the fall. These waves, the gnome continues, are your brain waves. They change as you drift into sleep, like tides in the body's inner sea. You watch as colors begin to bloom across the surface of the river. Soft golds, deep blues, pale violets. Each one pulses with a different pace. Alpha waves, he says, pointing to the golden ripples. They come when you're drowsy, eyes closed, mind calm but still aware. They greet you at the edge of sleep, your mind's. Soft curtain call, the golden waves pass. Then deeper blue currents begin to rise, slow rolling. Now you meet theta, the gnome explains. Dreamlike, creative, emotional. Your mind drifts into memory, into metaphor, into the surreal. Theta welcomes the stories to begin. The boat glides further. Time feels different here, slowed, thick, forgiving then, with a sudden hush. The water deepens into indigo. The ripples slow, flattening into large, heavy waves. Delta, the gnome whispers, almost reverently. The slowest, the deepest. Here the body heals, cells repair, muscles soften. You are weightless and wrapped in restoration. You close your eyes. You feel your own heart matching the waves. Slow, even, quiet, the boat drifts on unbothered. By destination dot, the gnome places a hand to his chest. Your heartbeat, he says, also follows rhythms. It slows with your breath, which slows with your thoughts. And together they harmonize. You picture it now, your brain, your heart, your breath, not as separate instruments, but as one orchestra. A lullaby written in silence. Even your temperature lowers, he says gently. Your blood pressure drops. Your body says, I trust you to rest now. The river begins to shift again. New pulses ripple through. Quicker, lighter, like skipping stones. REM, the gnome says with a smile. You've entered the dreaming part. Colors swirl beneath the surface, not random, but meaningful. Images half formed. Emotions stirred. Memories stitched into strange shapes. This rhythm is active, he says. Your brain lights up again. But the body stays still, safely held in sleep's embrace. You think of it like a dance inside the mind. Fast movements in a body, made still by care. A fire within soft water. The boat continues, and with it, the rhythms cycle again. From REM to light sleep, then deeper again. Each round a circle. Each wave a breath. Your brain does this, the gnome says. 4, maybe 5 times each night, not in chaos, but in choreography. You rest your hand in the water. It doesn't splash. It ripples gently around you, accepting, integrating. Everything has a rhythm, he continues. Your hormones, your organs, your mind, all pulsing to patterns written by something older than memory. You sit quietly, letting that truth sink in. You are not floating by chance. You are floating by design, and sleep is not stillness. It is symphony. The stars above shimmer like neurons sparking, lighting up a sky map of the mind. And you realize something. The river does not take you away from yourself. It brings you closer, closer to the parts of you that never needed words. The gnome stands gently as the boat approaches a new shore. Ahead, soft lanterns glow in the trees. Each one flickers, with its own quiet pulse. Your rhythms, he says, are not just internal. They're guided by the world around you. You step onto the shore, and he points to the lanterns. These lights, they're more than decoration. They're signals. They shape your rhythm. You feel it, the shift, the presence of something. That times you not from within, but from without. Because sometimes sleep is guided not by what happens inside you, but by the softest changes in the world around you, like the flicker of a lantern at night. The forest returns, quiet but alive, as you step gently from the river's shore. The gnome walks ahead, his lantern swaying in time with your breath. Above, the canopy thickens. The sky peeks through in slivers, not black, but a velvet blue. Night has arrived, but not suddenly. It has crept in gently, as if it knows you are listening. You follow the trail as the air cools slightly, brushing your skin like the memory of wind. In the branches above, soft golden lights begin to appear. Lanterns. Hundreds of them, flickering like fireflies, but still, suspended, glowing, pulsing. They are melatonin. The gnome says softly, his voice almost blending into the wind. Lanterns your body lights when the world begins to dim. You pause beneath one. Its glow is not harsh, not electric. It glows like the end of a candle's life. Soft, warm, patient. In the body, he continues. Melatonin flows from a place deep inside your mind, a small pinnacone-shaped guardian called the pineal gland. It waits for the sun to sleep before it lights your lanterns. The gnome kneels at a small pool beneath a tree. The water reflects the canopy above, thousands of stars and lanterns tangled together. Your eyes are the messengers, he says. They carry news of light to the brain. And when they tell it that night has fallen, the pineal gland begins to glow, spilling melatonin into your blood. You close your eyes and imagine it, a slow silver river flowing inward, turning switches off one by one. A quieting, a softening. But light, the gnome adds gently, is a trickster too. It doesn't only come from the sky. He gestures to a distant part of the forest, where a flickering blue glow pulses like a restless star. The light feels different there, colder, more alert. Blue light, he says, the kind that comes from your glowing screens, your digital suns. It confuses your lanterns, makes your body believe the day has not ended. You look at your hands, thinking of the times you've stared into phones or laptops, eyes wide open when your body longed to close. The gnome nods knowingly, as if he heard your thought. Melatonin waits, he says, but it is shy. Too much light, too late in the day, and the lanterns stay dark. The forest deepens. Now the lanterns become more regular, hanging in rings like constellations. Each one seems to pulse in rhythm with your breath. This is your circadian rhythm, he says. The internal clock written not in numbers, but in light and dark. It tells your body when to wake, when to sleep, when to heal, when to grow. You walk slowly under the arches of glowing branches. Each one whispers a piece of the rhythm, not in sound, but in presence. It's not just sleep, the gnome continues. It's temperature, hunger, alertness, mood, all dancing to the same melody, a melody your body remembers, even when you forget. You ask him how this rhythm stays in time. He leads you to a clearing where a sundial sits bathed in moonlight. Only this one isn't made of stone. It's made of living wood. A ring of trees, each representing a different hour of the body's natural flow. There's a master clock inside you, the gnome says, in a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It sits just above where the optic nerves meet, always watching, always adjusting. The trees in the circle begin to glow, one by one. A full-body choreography of rise and rest, hunger and stillness. Your body is not rigid, he says. It listens to the sun. It shifts gently with the seasons. Even your dreams change with the light. You sit on a stone within the circle. The light here is golden, low, welcoming. The lanterns swing slowly now, as if preparing to sleep themselves. And when you travel far, the gnome adds, crossing time zones, stepping ahead or behind, your rhythm becomes untied. This we call jet lag. You smile softly. Even the science of sleep has poetry in it. It takes time, he says, for your lanterns to reset, for the pineal gland to find the right dusk, the right dawn, for your inner clocks to tick in harmony once more. You look up. The lanterns are dimming. Not out of exhaustion, but completion. It is a dance, the gnome says again. Night is not the opposite of day. It is its reflection, its echo, its breath. You stand slowly, your body wrapped in the understanding that nightfall is not an end. It is a passage, a soft mirror through which your biology turns inward, resets, rises again. The gnome lifts his lantern one last time, and it flickers out. Not gone, simply done. Ahead, another path opens. This one lower, curved, and fragrant with something earthy and alive. He smiles. There is another place, he says. A garden where something even deeper speaks. Not in light, but in whispers. Because not all rhythms come from stars and lanterns. Some rise from the soil within you, waiting to be heard. The path winds downward now, into richer earth. The trees open up to sky again, starlight dripping through their leaves like soft rain. And ahead, a scent, not sweet, not sharp, but alive. Damp soil, crushed herbs, something wild but comforting. You know it even before you name it. It smells like home. The gnome stops beside a wooden gate, no taller than your chest. Twisting vines bloom across its surface, pulsing softly with tiny golden specks. This, he says, opening the gate with care, is the garden of gut whispers, a place beneath the world. And yet, within you, you step inside and everything changes. The ground is springy with moss. The air hums, not with music, but with a low, steady vibration of something ancient all around you. Plants lean toward each other, as if listening. Mushrooms glow faintly from the base of tree trunks. Tiny glowing insects drift by like punctuation marks in a sentence you haven't finished reading. This garden, the gnome says, is your gut, and it's more than digestion. It's a brain of its own. You blink. A brain? Here? He nods, his eyes kind. Scientists call it the enteric nervous system, a network of over 500 million neurons, right here in your belly. You place your hand just below your ribs, feeling warmth. Not heat, warmth like a remembered kindness. The gnome walks ahead, kneeling beside a cluster of vibrant, swaying stems. He gently touches one. It responds, releasing a mist of golden particles that swirl upward and vanish. These, he whispers, are the messengers, tiny chemical signals. They carry news from your gut to your brain, and from your brain back to your gut. You follow him through winding rows of plant beds, each one unique, some rooted in dark, damp soil, others floating gently on pools of still water. Your gut is not silent, he says. It speaks constantly, in whispers. It uses neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, not just in your mind, but here, in your belly. You pause. Serotonin, a word you've heard before, connected with happiness. And here it is, blooming quietly between basil and wild mint. Over 90% of your serotonin, the gnome says, is made here. Your mood begins not in thought, but in the soil of your body. You walk slowly through the garden. You begin to feel it now, the interconnectedness. That calm isn't just a mindset. It's chemistry, harmony, flow. A small gnome waves from a raised bed, surrounded by twisting roots. He carries a glowing orb. It pulses in sync with your breath. Microbiome, the first gnome explains. Trillions of bacteria living in your gut, each one helping you digest, defend, repair, and feel. You crouch beside the garden bed, peering into the soil. Tiny sparks move between root and root, a glowing map of cooperation. It's like a rainforest, he says. Diverse, balanced, always adjusting. You ask, what happens when it's out of balance? The gnome points to a corner where a few plants wilt slightly, leaves drooping. When stress, processed food, or lack of sleep disturb this place. He explains. The whispers turn to static. Your gut becomes confused. The signals to your brain lose clarity. You stand again, letting this settle in your chest dot. So anxiety isn't always from thoughts. Sometimes it's from the garden. Sometimes your mind is echoing what your belly already knows. You walk to a glowing archway formed by intertwining vines. Inside, a small table sits under lantern light. A bowl of steaming tea at its center dot. The gnome pours you a cup. Fermented. Herbs, he says with a smile, full of helpful microbes. Food is not just nourishment, it's communication. You sip dot. It tastes of citrus, earth, and something vaguely like ginger dot. As it warms your chest, you feel your breath deepen. Not from will, but from welcome. This place, he says, reminds you that intuition, that gut feeling, isn't poetic metaphor. It's biology. It's neurons listening. You let your eyes close for a moment. You feel your belly rise and fall, soft and slow dot. You think of the times you felt unease without explanation. The decisions you made from instinct. The restlessness that sometimes speaks before your thoughts can form dot. And here, in this garden, those moments make sense. Your gut is not a separate voice. It's the first voice, older than language, wiser than logic, quieter than thought. Gnome stands and leads you toward another path. The soil here glows slightly beneath your feet. There's still more to the story, he says. Dreams, for instance, they don't only come from memory. Sometimes they rise from the body itself. You look behind at the garden, still humming, still alive. You know now that peace doesn't just come from stillness. It comes from listening and tending dot, because somewhere deep inside, beyond thought and beyond words, a thread pulls upward from belly to brain, whispering things even dreams are made from. The path leads you away from the garden, now through a passage of soft stone and curling ivy. The earth is quiet here, not empty, but waiting, like a stage behind the curtain or the silence before the music begins. Your guide slows his steps. His lantern is no longer needed. Instead, soft pulses of light glow from the walls, as though the very rock has begun to dream. You're about to meet the dreamsmiths, he whispers, his voice low, like the first line of a bedtime story. They are the weavers of your sleeping world. You step into a chamber lit with floating orbs. Each one shimmers with half-formed images. A face that shifts into a forest, a laugh turning into wind, a staircase that leads both up and down. Gnomes. Gather here, smaller than the others you've seen, with robes of stardust and hands that shimmer like moonlit thread. They move slowly, delicately, with the precision of ancient artisans. These are the ones who spin your dreams, your guide says. They use threads from memory, strands of feeling, and fibers pulled from thought. You watch as one dreamsmith stretches a glowing filament between two hovering memory fragments, a childhood smell and the sound of falling rain. When the thread connects them, the orb pulses once and begins to play, a dream forming, breathing, unfolding. This is REM sleep, the gnome explains, the rapid eye movement stage. Your brain is alive with motion, your body held in stillness. And here, the mind begins to wander. You walk gently between the dreamsmiths, careful not to disturb their work. Each dream glows with a different color, some bright and strange, others soft and dim, like half-remembered songs. They don't make dreams from nothing, your guide says. They work with what you've gathered. Memories, feelings, worries, all placed like puzzle pieces on the loom. One dreamsmith waves you closer. He points to an orb that holds fragments from your day, the curve of a doorframe, a word spoken. Too quickly, a flash of a forgotten place. You recognize them. Not clearly, but in that way, dreams always feel familiar. Dreams stitch together the unsorted, your guide says. They take loose thoughts and emotions, test them, reshape them, and offer them back in metaphor. You watch the orb play. You are walking through a hallway that never ends, carrying something you can't see, while a clock chimes in a language you don't understand. The image flickers, changes. This is how your brain rehearses, he continues. It explores what frightens you. It simulates what confuses you. It prepares you without waking you. You ask, why must dreams be so strange? The gnome smiles, because the logical mind sleeps during REM. The prefrontal cortex, your planner and judge, steps aside. In its place, emotion takes the wheel. Imagination, memory, and sensation become your architects. You sit beside a weaver who threads a silver string between a joyful memory and a recent disappointment. When the orb glows, it becomes a dream of you flying above the ocean, carrying a paper boat filled with letters you've never written. Your mind is asking a question, your guide says, and the dream is its answer, not in words, but in story. You feel it now. The logic of dreams isn't nonsense. It's nonlinear wisdom, the kind that touches what words cannot. Another dreamsmith opens a drawer made of glass. Inside are threads colored in shades of grief. He weaves them carefully with lighter strands, humor, sunlight, memory. And the result is a dream of someone you've lost, laughing with you in a place that doesn't exist, but somehow feels more real than the day. Your brain is healing here, the gnome says. It re-exposes you to sorrow, but under your terms. It lets you feel it again, safely, gently. You rise and walk toward a vast loom that spans an entire wall. It vibrates like a harp string. Thousands of filaments run through it, connecting. Every sensory note you've ever known. This is the collective dream, the gnome says. It holds the themes that return again and again, falling, flying, searching, the universal threads. You ask what it means when dreams repeat, patterns. He answers. Your brain flags the themes it hasn't finished weaving. The dreams return not to haunt, but to complete the stitch. You close your eyes, thinking of the dreams that visit you more than once, the rooms you return to, the feelings that echo, the stories that refuse to end. Perhaps now you understand why not all dreams are meant to be solved. Some are mirrors. Some are maps. Some are simply release. You turn back to the dreamsmiths, each one still weaving, still glowing, still turning your invisible thoughts into visible feeling. And you wonder, how much of who you are is shaped while you sleep? How much is healed, organized, and rediscovered without you knowing? Your guide places a hand on your shoulder. You've seen how the mind moves in dreams. Now it's time to look at what rests while you sleep. You tilt your head. What do you mean? He smiles, already walking toward a narrow bridge of light. Your mind dreams, but your body restores. Because while dreams rise like questions in the night, there are answers waiting in the quiet hollow, where the body begins to heal. The bridge is narrow but strong, woven from threads of starlight and old thought. It leads you upward, not just through space, but through feeling. There is no wind, yet your breath feels lighter. You are rising gently, steadily, as though held by something invisible and kind. The island lies beneath you now, bathed in silver blue. The forest, the river, the garden, the dream chamber, all glowing softly, alive but resting. It is a landscape of thought made visible, and above you, a sky like no other. Not blank, not vast, but layered. Shapes drift within it, slow, and pulsing like clouds made of memory and light. The gnome appears beside you, floating without effort, his robes caught in a current you can't feel. You're in the sky above your cortex, he says, the outer shell of your brain. the part that guides planning, focus, logic. He points to the layered clouds drifting across the sky. This is your prefrontal cortex, a conductor by day, a quiet watcher by night. You look out across the glowing currents. Here, thoughts rise like mist. Some spiral upward. Some drift and disappear. Some gather into shapes too soft to name. During the day, the gnome explains, your cortex is busy, solving, deciding, doing. It organizes your world into lists and labels. But at night, it rests. And that resting is not the same as silence. You pause in the air, floating without tension. Beneath you, a thought blooms, delicate, pink, unfurling like a flower. Your seeing, he says, is what we call the default mode network. It's the hum behind the quiet, the mind's way of being, when it's not trying to be anything at all. You let the words settle. Default, mode, network. 3 soft stones drop into a still pond. This network, the gnome continues, links memories, stories, reflections. It's where your sense of self lives, not in the doing, but in the being. You float closer to one of the cloud thoughts. Inside it, you see flickers, not of action, but of identity. Moments from your past, pieces of who you've been. Tiny echoes of your voice, speaking only to yourself. You talk to yourself here, the gnome says, not out loud, but in story, in image, in quiet review. You watch as the cloud forms. A memory, a walk you took years ago, a song that shaped you, a feeling you never spoke aloud. These reflections keep you whole, he says. Your sleeping mind reviews the story of you, not to relive it, but to remember that you are. Still you. You drift onward. Now the clouds begin to shift. Some are dim, some bright. Some spiral inward like questions. Others expand like understanding. Even when you're not dreaming, the gnome adds, your brain wanders, not to escape, but to integrate. You ask him, what does it integrate? He turns toward a glowing pulse forming above the horizon. Your emotions, your unresolved moments, your social thoughts, what you meant to say, what you wish you'd understood. You feel it now, the brain not as a machine, but as a garden of connections that continue to grow in the dark. And then, something stirs. The clouds part slightly, revealing a quiet structure beneath, a network glowing like constellations, threaded through the brain's inner sky. This, he says softly, is the mind at rest. Not asleep, not awake, just present. You close your eyes. Not to stop seeing, but to feel more deeply. A memory rises. Not from the day, not from a dream, but from somewhere in between. You sense your mind turning it over, not like a puzzle, but like a shell on the shore. Examining, listening. This is insight, the gnome whispers. The kind that doesn't come with effort, but with space. You think of how sometimes your best ideas come not while trying, but while walking, washing dishes, watching the rain. It's because your default mode was working, he says. Your resting brain is a storyteller. It weaves the pieces together, but only when you stop tugging at the thread. You float higher now. The sky glows lavender and silver, like the final breath of night before it turns to dawn. The gnome places a hand on your shoulder. It's here, in this quiet space, that your deepest self remembers its shape, not through doing, but through gentle return. Below you, the island pulses, a rhythm you now recognize. Sleep is not a blankness. It is a stage, a ritual, a home. You ask quietly, if this is the mind, where is the body? The gnome smiles. Still here, he says, but resting in a hollow, a place where healing begins, beneath trees that whisper and fungi that sing in silence. You look down. Far below, the land folds into a hidden grove. Soft light flickers through the roots. A heartbeat pulses faintly from the earth itself, because while your mind reflects among the clouds, your body waits in stillness, mending itself one breath at a time. You descend slowly, as if being guided by gravity's gentler twin. The sky above fades into leaf and root, and you return to earth, not with weight, but with welcome. This is not a fall, but a folding inward. The path winds into a hollow, a quiet bowl of land where the air grows warmer, softer, rich with the scent of moss, damp bark, and ancient stone. A hush lives here. Not silence, but softness, as if even the wind has decided to whisper. You step into the hollow. The ground is covered in a velvet of green. Tiny fungi glow at the base of trees, their caps pulsing in rhythm with something unseen but deeply felt. Beneath a bent tree, a shallow brook murmurs over smooth stones. Its song is simple, and somehow it sings to your bones. The gnome walks ahead, but slowly now. There is no need to hurry here. This, he says, gesturing to the quiet all. Around is where the body begins to mend, where sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes repair. You sit beside a patch of warm moss and feel it. A stillness not just in the world around you, but inside your chest, your muscles, your cells. You've seen the mind at work. The gnome continues, but now, feel what the body does while it drifts. You close your eyes, not to leave this place, but to enter it more deeply. Your breath deepens. Your heart slows. And beneath it all, something steady hums, like a drumbeat made of cells and silence. Deep sleep, the gnome says, especially in the NREM stages, is when the body takes center stage. Tissue is repaired, muscles grow, wounds begin to close, not just on skin, but within. You imagine it now, microscopic builders, repairing what the day has worn, tiny hands smoothing frayed edges. A night crew that never clocks out. Growth hormone, he continues, peaks during these stages. It whispers to your bones, to your skin, to your organs. Now is the time. You picture the cells, not frantic, but purposeful. They work in rhythm, restoring, rebuilding, not as a favor, but as a promise. Even your immune system stirs. The gnome kneels beside a mushroom cluster, touching one gently with a glowing finger. Inflammation softens here, he says. Cytokines are balanced, white blood cells reorganize, defenses recalibrate. The fungi pulse once, not with light, but with a soft inner warmth. Your body is doing things you cannot name. And yet, every part of you is participating. Every breath, a signal. Every beat, a guidepost. He steps beside the brook now. The water is clear, and beneath its surface, smooth stones are arranged in circular patterns. This is your cardiovascular system, he says. Your heart rate slows, blood pressure lowers, vessels expand. Even your brain's glymphatic system, a cleansing tide, washes through to remove the waste. You imagine a tide flowing through your mind, not water, but purpose, sweeping away what no longer serves, making room for clarity you'll meet in the morning. You don't have to do anything, he says softly. Your body knows. It remembers the rhythm. It trusts the dark. You lie down in the moss now. The earth accepts you like it's been waiting. Your spine relaxes, your limbs uncoil, and deeper still, in the marrow, in the blood, in the unseen places, your body listens and begins. Sleep, he whispers, is not passive. It's participation, a collaboration between biology and time. The mushrooms dim, the brook slows, and your breath becomes almost indistinguishable from the wind. You realize with wonder that even at rest, you are in motion, a quiet healing, an unfolding. You ask him gently, why does it feel so invisible? He smiles, Because healing does not demand to be seen. It asks only to be allowed. You open your eyes. Above you, fireflies drift like thoughts, slow, soft, forgiving. There's no hurry here, no performance. No checklist. Just presence. You sit up slowly, your body lighter. Not because it changed, but because now you know it is changing, even in sleep. The gnome places his hand on your shoulder. There is one more place, he says. The tree at the center of all this, where waking and dreaming echo each other, and the night finally closes its circle. You look through the trees. There, on a hill barely lit, a great trunk spirals. Into the sky, its bark catching the starlight like memory, because even healing needs a witness. And sometimes that witness is simply the dawn. The forest hushes around you as you leave the healing hollow behind. Each step forward feels like a soft goodbye, not to the island, but to a version of yourself that has been gently unfolding all night. The path winds toward a low hill, dusted in silver mist and the scent of new morning. At its crest stands a tree, unlike any you've seen. Tall and ancient. Its trunk spirals like a seashell, each curve etched with glowing lines, like veins of memory. The bark is not rough, but smooth and warm beneath your hand, alive with a quiet vibration, as though the tree itself is breathing. This, the gnome says, is the echo tree. It listens while you sleep, and when you wake, it sings back what you left behind. You sit at its roots, which spread wide like arms, inviting rest. Even now, even still, the canopy above moves gently in rhythm, branches whispering in a language only silence understands. This is where all the parts meet, he says softly. Body, mind, memory, dream, all integrated, all returned, all made whole. You lean back, and for a moment, the bark seems to cradle you. You close your eyes, and the dreams you dreamed begin to ripple outward, not fading, but reframing. Sleep doesn't end your story, the gnome continues. It edits it, clarifies it. And when it hands it back to you in the morning, it makes sure your hands are ready to hold it. You open your eyes slowly. Above, the first edge of dawn begins to push through the treetops, not harsh, but golden and warm, like a memory returning at the exact right time. Around the tree, orbs begin to appear, floating lazily in the early light. Each one holds something small, an image, a feeling, a thought. Your dreams, the gnome explains, do not disappear. They echo, in the way you feel without knowing why, in the choices you make without remembering the dream that made them easier. He gestures to an orb hovering nearby. Inside, you see yourself standing quietly in the garden, listening to the soil breathe. Another orb drifts past, you flying over the river of brainwaves, the sky unfolding like a song. Not all dreams are literal, he reminds you. Some are blueprints. Some are rehearsals. Some are quiet teachers. You rise to your feet and place your hand once more on the echo tree's trunk. It pulses gently beneath your palm. A signal. A goodbye. A beginning. As the light rises higher, you notice how the forest starts to shift. Leaves brighten. The mist lifts, and somewhere, not far off, birds begin to sing. You are waking now, the gnome says, not just in body, but in understanding. You nod. It's not a jolt, not an alarm, but a tide rolling slowly toward shore, and still, you linger. You turn to him and ask, what should I remember most? He smiles, his eyes reflecting a warmth deeper than sleep itself. That sleep is not escape, he says. It's a return to your rhythms, to your healing, to the deeper parts of you that wait each night to be seen again. He walks with you a short distance to where the trees thin and the horizon begins to hum with gold. This island, he says, was never separate. It lives in you, In every circadian shift, every gut feeling, every quiet connection between what you feel and how your body responds. You think of the fog, the river, the garden, the dreams. Each one a chapter in the night, not each one a voice in your deeper language. The gnome steps aside, leaving you at the edge of the forest. The light warms your skin. The earth feels firmer beneath your feet. The sky is no longer layered with thought, but clear, open, welcoming dot you breathe. And with that breath, you carry reverie with you, not as a place, but as a memory, a science, a story your body has already begun to remember. One last time, you look back toward the echo tree. Its branches shimmer in the morning light, and for just a moment, you hear it, a soft sound, like a lullaby in reverse, not putting you to sleep, but gently waking you into a new knowing. You step forward, Dot, and with you comes everything you've gathered in the night: restoration, rhythm, connection, breath, not held too tightly, not forgotten, but carried softly into waking Dot, because every journey through sleep ends not with forgetting, but with remembering where you've always belonged. And now, as our story gently fades, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this moment with me. Dot, your presence here means the world, and your support helps me create even more peaceful journeys. Just for you. If this helped you rest, please consider liking, subscribing, or simply coming back tomorrow night. Until then, stay cozy, stay kind, and may your dreams tonight be soft, serene, and full of wonder. Good night, my friend. With warmth, David.